Hollywood, Georgia. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I grew up on a farm up in the mountains of northeast Georgia. And so when I came to Nashville, which was obviously for country music, it just kind of blew my mind. And fishing, for me, is something I've always done. When I was a little girl, my mother would take me out fishing for bluegill and perch on our pond. We had a pond that was stocked on our farm, and trout, just regular, throw a bobber in and catch a bluegill and think it was the greatest thing in the world. And that was my first experience with fishing, was being out with my mom. And so when I moved to Nashville, I didn't fish for, the first few years I've been here. I kind of lost that part. And for those folks who don't know me, I'm a musician, and I've been really fortunate to get to do music and play music on a level where I get to tell my story and your story through my songs. And I've played, here across the country, and I've played in Europe and been very fortunate and played the Ryman, and have, I've been living the dream somewhat, so to speak, but it's been that sort of a climb to get to where I want to go, and it's been a great adventure. And it's kind of funny how that kind of brought me back to fishing. About a year and a half ago, I started working with producer Brian Kolb. He is he's like Nashville's next hottest little producer. He's started his way up as an engineer for folks and doing great records, like working with Dave Brainerd with Jared Neiman, and did the Brandy Clark record, and sort of caught the attention of Music Row as a producer. And I was called in to sing background vocals on a record he was producing on Rachel Bradshaw, and he was co-producing it with award winner Frank Liddell, and which is kind of a really big deal on Music Row for a young producer to get a call like that to do a record. And I was thrilled to get a call as a musician to come in and play on the record. And when I started working with Brian and realizing that we work really great together musically, I never imagined it was going to take me back to my love for fishing. He has this really cool cabin out on the Tennessee River, and it's like this creative haven of just fishing awesomeness. It is, you go out there and you write songs and you play songs around the campfire, and when I got invited out there, I hadn't fished in years. I mean, I definitely had never bass fished. I never in my life had the chance to go out on the water and do that. And we're out on a boat, and it's Father's Day, and having just lost my dad a couple years prior to that, I was, it was just kind of this weird, surreal moment, and I yanked in 8 bass, in 20 minutes. My first time out there, and just really had a stroke of luck and of great guidance, and fell in love instantly. I mean, for lack of a better word, and kind of a waka waka moment, I was hooked. And Brian, meanwhile, is sitting there going, well, dang, she's kind of got an axe for this. Who knew? And it was really a cool moment. It was just kind of like one of those aha moments when everything came together. And it was crazy. I mean, we came up on a school, and it was about sunset, and, I threw my line in, and they were keepers, and they weren't big fish. That came, a few weeks later, I got in on some 5-pounders and stuff, and just really fell in love with it. And, from that point on, if I wasn't behind a mic or on a stage, I was out on the water. And I've written some of my best songs lately out on the water, and it just kind of all came together. It was really kind of surreal and divine intervention, if you want to know the truth. Brian was like, well, she actually is pretty good at this, and if it really gave me some great encouragement to follow that. A lot of producers wouldn't. A lot of people would go, oh, great, a distraction for my artist. Brian wasn't like that. He was like, here's something you're good at. Here's something you enjoy doing. feed off of that creative energy and put it into your music. And honestly, that's what I did. You know, fishing, really, you're sitting out there and you're throwing your line in the water and you're hoping you're gonna catch a fish. And with country music, it's kind of the same thing as a musician. You kind of throw your songs out there and you throw your music out there and you hope that people are going to connect with it. And I know it's a cheesy analogy, sorry about that, but it's the truth, you know. I'm as a musician, going out there and playing your songs for people, your best hope is that people are going to connect with you. And fishing's the kind of same thing. You know, you get out on the water and your troubles just kind of melt away, and the world just kind of melts away, and you just sort of become one with being out on the river or, you know, the lake, and it gives you a chance to slow down and quiet your mind, and great stuff happens. And for me, being from, you know, up in the mountains where there's 200 people in my hometown, it was kind of like coming home again. And even though it's a totally different state, and it just really felt like I found my way back home. And you know, it's always a good day fishing, you know, unless the wind is just ridiculous. There's no such thing as a bad day fishing. And that's something you can look forward to. You know, when you're loading up the boat and you're getting ready to get out on the water, it's going to be a good day, no matter if you catch anything. And so, yeah, it is definitely a good balance for me. I love fishing for striped bass. We call them striped bass out here on the Tennessee River, but they're also striper, rockfish, you know, they're all the same thing. But there's one hole out on the Tennessee River that is the main stripe hole. And I have a lure that is my absolute favorite. Well, it's my lucky lure. His name is Lucky. And it's nothing, you know, extravagant. It's a Strike King, like half-ounce red-eye shad. It's one of the orange ones, the orange craw color. It's the rattle trap. And I love that thing. I guess it's just like a sentimental thing, you know, because it's one of the first lures that I ever had that was mine in my tackle box. And I had been fishing for stripe all, you know, July, which is basically the hot spot, and caught some decent ones. There's actually one in the calendar that I've done recently. I mean, it's a pretty good fish, but I wanted to break my PR. I wanted to, like, catch the biggest stripe at the stripe hole, and I was determined. I had like 3 or 4 bites that were like, I just knew they were big, and then they get off the line. It's like, dang. And I was like, today is the day. I'm going to catch him. So I'm out there with Brian and Boo Boo, my favorite fishing buddy. She's a Boston Terrier. She's amazing. She calls all the fish to the boat. And I tie on Lucky, and I'm out there, and about the moment he hits the water, there's this like big boom, and it comes up, and you could see the fish. It was huge. I mean, it had to be, it was over 20 pounds, which for that hole is a really big striped bass. And I was stoked. You know, he's like running for the log, and Brian's like practically jumping up and down in front of the boat. And I'm like, oh yeah, today is the day. And then snap, there it goes. There's my line. And unlike the fishing song that we have that's with the calendar, I don't necessarily jump around and break things when I get mad. I get quiet, and I'm rarely quiet. So if I'm quiet, I'm probably mad. So I was really quiet. And Brian's like, hey, don't worry, there are other fish out there. And I'm like, dude, that was Lucky. That's my favorite lure. So I just tie another rattle trap on. I'm like, okay, just let it go. 2 casts later, I'm hung on something. And I'm like, what am I hung on? So we troll up there, and it's my line. And as we get up there, I realize it's a new line. It's my line that just broke off. And in a very idiotic moment, Brian sticks his hand into the water and grabs the line. I'm like, oh, no, no, this is not a good idea, man. You're going to cut yourself. But he starts reeling it up, and the fish is still on there. And it comes up to the surface, and it's it's literally huge. This sucker is huge. Spits Lucky at me, looks at me, and swims away. And I get my lure back, my lucky lure, and this fish is just went. It's like something out of that movie, Big Fish or something. It's like it was a very surreal moment. I was like, I got my lure back, and so now I don't fish with Lucky anymore. I tied a string around him. He's in my truck. He like hangs from my rearview mirror like a CD or a bobblehead or whatever. But a couple months later, a big like 25, 30-pound Asian carp jumped in the boat. We weren't moving, and smashed the $300 Costa sunglasses, beats me up, knocks my dog over, bruises me all to pieces, and then jumps out of the boat. That happened like at the exact same spot that I got my lure back. They're taking over the Tennessee River, and you know they don't have any predators, so they just kind of do their thing. And we weren't even moving. I've had, as I'm driving the boat, and I've had them fly over the boat before, and it's pretty scary. But we were literally standing still. And these sunglasses, they're not even mine. They're Brian's, but I've worn them a few times, and they're fantastic. He treats them like Elvis gave them to him because, they're expensive and they're great glasses. And they're always around his neck or in this magic box. He took them off for 2 seconds, lays them down to get his glasses holder, and a huge fish jumps out of the water and lands on the 1 6-inch square that the sunglasses are at, smashes them to pieces, and beats me up, knocks Ubu over, and jumps right back out of the water. It's like a 15-second Seinfeld episode. It was crazy. Part of my story is that in the midst of me getting to do what I love to do is for music and, having a hobby of fishing, the Country Music Association, they invited me to be a member 2 years ago, and it was like a really big honor to get invited, and they selected me as their one of their emerging artists. They select like a handful of up-and-comers, is what they call it, to represent the CMA at CMA Music Festival, which is like held every June, and it's a really big event. And Fanfare is where they have booths for the artists, and fans can come by and you meet the acts and get to sign autographs. It's just a lot of fun. They gave me my own booth the past 2 years, and it was great. I've had thousands of people come by, and it's really cool to get to talk to them face-to-face and give hugs and take pictures, because I love talking with people online, but there's that rare opportunity you get to see those people face-to-face, and it's just really valuable for me to get to remember why I make music in the first place. And the first year we had a video out. We launched my video Talk Country to them at CMA Fest, and it went viral with like 250,000 views. And then the next year, this past year, I was at the booth, and people came by, and they talked about fishing the whole time. Folks would come up and go, "Hey, I saw that fish from last week. Where did you catch that? What did you catch that on? And what are you throwing?" And it was all fishing. It was crazy. Somebody said, and it was actually several people go, "Do you have any pictures?" Because we have photos to give the fans. They go, "Do you have any of you with fish?" And I was like, "No, that never even crossed my mind." So my management comes to me, and they're like, "Hey, we've got this idea for you. We'd love something where you can kind of give people what they're asking for. It's a fishing calendar." And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do a fishing calendar." It comes with a free download. That actually is the only way to get the new fishing song "Tie One On." It comes with a calendar. I was very insistent about that. I'll go, I want it filmed or I want the photos taken actually where I fish, actually on the boat that I fish on, with my old carrot sticks and my actual fishing rod. There actually is some of my favorite fish from 2014. But and the sport, I always like to put the stats in, like what I caught it on and that kind of thing. Just for me, that stuff's the interesting stuff. I've actually met people recently who, since we've been doing the calendar, folks are like, "Oh, well, I don't fish. I don't get it." And I would pose that everybody's a fisherman. You just don't know it yet. If you don't think you fish, you just haven't been fishing. And you haven't had that chance to go out there. Because it's not about catching a fish. It's just about going out and enjoying the beautiful world God gave us. And I'm a catch and release bass angler. I do fish for anything that swims, basically, though. But my favorite thing to catch are largemouth. And I'm very adamant about being a good conservationist and letting them go do their thing so that we can enjoy it forever. And I feel like being out on the water and enjoying the planet that we've been blessed with is the coolest part of it. And it also doesn't stink when you catch like a really big fish and you're like, man, I am awesome. Then you go days and you don't catch anything. You're like, man, I am unawesome. I love all kinds of music. I know everybody says that, but I actually mean it. But my biggest influences country-wise would definitely be Dolly Parton. I feel like she was and is so real. I feel like when you watch her, what you see is what you get. And flaws and all. And I've always kind of connected with the realism with her and in her music and in her life. And I love Alan Jackson. I love Patti Loveless. I grew up listening to these incredible artists of the Grand Ole Opry. And I'm a fan of traditional country music. I'm also a fan of modern country music, but traditional country music really strikes a chord with me. But I also love classic rock and, southern rock and just about everything. So,
could there be anything better than singing about fishing?
No, there's absolutely nothing unless you're fishing. That's the only thing better than singing about fishing is actually fishing. Fishing is the trump card. It trumps everything. If they can figure out a way to put some sort of a pond in the middle of the Ryman Auditorium or something where you can sing it, you sit up there and you can play for people and fish at the same time, that would be amazing. Maybe I should figure that out. I should bring that in my show.